Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Let's Max Warframe, where today we're slowing down the pace a bit and going full on Solid Snake when we take a look at the newest dagger on the block, the Rakta Dark Dagger. Much like the other two Syndicate melees I took a look at, you can pick up the weapon for the huge cost of 125,000 standing with the red veil, although you do need to be max rank with them and Mastery 8 to be able to grab it. But once you do have your hands on it, it comes with an okay base damage of 50 pure radiation, makes it joint top highest of all the dagger weapons. Supplemental stats it comes with are kind of weak though. 5% critical chance, 150% critical damage, 10% status chance, definitely not particularly great. Let's get a faster attack speed of 1 compared to 0.967 that the original had, random numbers for the win, making it a bit faster for those finisher animations. It also has the ability to use Gleaming Blight Syndicate mod, which doubles its status chance to 20%. And then, obviously, being a dagger, it can also use Covert Lethality. But that's where the good points stop, to be honest. That low crit chance means no Blood Rush Body Count combo. The low status and the broken way the status mod affects status. Honestly, I only put it in there for the Radial Viral proc on a weapon that relies on status chance for its passive Syndicate ability. Plus, it has 0 knockdown whatsoever, so you can forget about doing that for some quick single target crowd control. Now, the passive of the weapon, it's actually fairly interesting and does come in 2 parts. The first part is that if you strike a target that has a rad proc on it, you will restore your shields by 5% of the damage done by the weapon. So finishes on a target hit by a rad proc will restore almost all your shield. Plus overshield is also done almost instantly. As you can see in the footage with Oberon, his overshield's max out of 1500, meaning that with this you can have a huge constantly rolling shield restore. The reason I'm using Oberon is because of a comment made by Boris Manacon, who gave me the info in a comment on my channel, that the rad proc from Oberon's Reckoning works, and this is absolutely true. It will also work on any enemy that has a rad proc from any other source, primary, secondary, etc. Or, for some reason though, it doesn't seem to work with Loki's Radial Disarm right now, although I'm fairly sure that's a bug. It's a fairly useful little passive, unlike the second passive, which is 33% reduced detection when the dagger is held compared to when it isn't. Now, according to the wiki, it says detection range when undetected is 15 meters, but it will be 10 meters while holding the dark dagger. I honestly had to rely on the wiki for this one, because in practice and in reality, it's so ridiculously inconsistent, it's unreal. Sometimes you can be spotted by enemies 25 meters away, sometimes 40. It seems so random and so arbitrary that it was tough to actually confirm this in game. I genuinely do not like this passive. Okay, it's interesting and fits with the theme, but if you're going all stealthy, 10 meters is not going to help you not get spotted still if you're not using a stealth-based Warframe. And if you're using a stealth-based Warframe, you really don't care about that anyway. So, in terms of the build for it, I do have 2 slightly different builds. The stance I went for was Homing Fang because the Life Eater combo is not too hard to pull off, plus it does a decent amount of damage with some good maneuverability. Either one works, but this was my favourite of the 2. First build though, pretty standard damage build, Prime Pressure Point, Prime Fury, Covert Lethality, Body Count to keep that combo counter up since the damage isn't great, 3 90% Elemental mods, and Gleaming Bright to bring that status down up a bit, as well as give that Radial Viral proc every time it charges. I use Covert Lethality on it at all times, even if I'm not on a frame that can take advantage of it myself. If I run into other frames that are putting things to sleep, for example, then I can make use of it that way. The idea behind this is just putting out as much damage as possible, while keeping that combo counter up to try and push the damage even higher, since if you mess up with a finisher, you're going to need the damage to be able to kill surrounding units as quickly as possible. This would be the build that I combine with something like Oberon to proc radiation for me. If I was going to be trying to proc the radiation myself, I would go with the second build. Same first 4 mods, got Gleaming Blight again, Weeping Wounds this time to push the status chance up as the combo counter goes up, and then 2 dual stat elementals, just to try and push that status chance up that bit higher. Either of the builds work just fine. I personally prefer the first one because of the damage output from the dagger. It's not the greatest, to be honest, so trying to push it a bit higher is something I really want to do. But once again, the 2 former allow for either of the 2 builds, so you can test and see which one you actually prefer. So, what do I actually think of the Rakta Dark Dagger? Do I think it's worth maxing out? And the answer to that is, honestly, no. I don't like it at all. The overshield mechanic is kind of interesting and quite fun when you combine it with something that can proc radiation reliably. Other than that, I do not care for the weapon at all. I hate daggers as melee weapons. They are slow compared to a lot of weapons. They have such a short range that you might as well go and kiss the enemy before you stab them. The damage doesn't reward closing the gap to the enemy, and the status chance on this thing is so low on a weapon that relies on status to be able to use one of its syndicate abilities. It just doesn't make sense. The only reason people are excited and love the Rakta Dark Dagger is because it's the new best dagger. But the phrase, "you can polish a turd, but it's still a turd," comes to mind. Covert lethality is pretty much the only reason anybody likes daggers, and that is because of the utter ridiculousness of one-shotting everything in the game with a finisher. As an actual melee weapon, it doesn't reward you for closing the gap, for getting in their face. As a covert lethality dagger though, it is top of the tree. Fast finishes, radial viral proc if you want it, but that's not only the Dark Dagger. All Dark Daggers excel doing this. The build is almost irrelevant, provided you're using finishers, like for example putting them all to sleep with Vivara or Radial Blind with Excalibur. You can run with a weapon and no mods except covert lethality. The build's irrelevant. If you like your finishers, then this weapon is for you. A great combination with Vivara, Excalibur, or Arrest Rage Equinox. But it's worth noting that the Ceramic Dagger is just as fast as the Rakta Dark Dagger, so if you want a much cheaper alternative for a fast dagger just for finishes, that's what I would go for. The Rakta Dark Dagger's, it's a love it or hate it weapon. It's either going to suit your playstyle and you'll love it, or it doesn't and you'll hate it. Personally, I don't like the slow pace of finisher after finisher. I find that super boring, and as such, the low damage of the weapon combined with the terrible range, it's never going to be any of the other weapons in my arsenal to be used as a straight up melee weapon. Only you're going to know whether you like the gameplay of daggers or not. If you do, then this is worth picking up. If you hate dagger gameplay, this isn't spectacular enough to convert you. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts on the Rakta Dark Dagger in the comments below, whether you're enjoying it or whether you think I'm missing something that makes it literally amazing. As always, I'll try to respond as many comments as I can. I've been fairly bad at it the last couple of weeks, so I apologise for that, but I'm back to doing it now. But many thanks for watching. There's a few glyph codes in the description below, so feel free to tweet some pics of them at me, and I shall see you in the next video.